that one. Just that one.
Welcome to the Button List podcast with Allison,
Sam, and Heather, coming at you live from Beating Dreams in Dallas, Texas.
During this broadcast, we will delve into stories of jewelry, past and present, looking to amuse, delight, and possibly disturb you.
We record live bi-weekly on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. Because we record live, you may occasionally hear us interact with our stream viewers.
Join the online conversation and tune in to any of our channels at 7:45 p.m. Central Time on Wednesdays.
Just a warning, sometimes we get a little spicy.
Please be aware that the following broadcast may contain mature content. Thank you for supporting small businesses.
And we hope you enjoy our show.
Yay! I'm so good at introductions.
Yes.
So you probably
You're going to do the outro as well. Okay, so welcome to the Button List for this, what the hell day it is?
I'll check.
Wednesday?
It's Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday evening. So tonight we've
already gotten spicy.
So I hope everyone has their indulgence ready.
I don't,
Sam,
because someone cleaned my glass.
Do you need more
I
water?
have water.
Sam needs to drink water. So,
I have nothing.
well, do you need to get something?
Someone cleaned my glass. I don't know where.
Okay, well, we have other glasses.
It's all right. We'll just
Heather.
power.
Heather, stop being a martyr. Because
We just did the intro.
okay, but if you're a martyr, your bones will get picked apart.
That's a good
sold
and rolled across the continent. So go get a thing.
And I'm gonna go get more water so that I don't.
Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and introduce this podcast. So when we were doing our podcast about concealed spaces,
You got this, Sam.
I had intended to do
I'll make
lockets,
more.
poison rings, and reliquaries.
Well, not in that way, but
The history of reliquaries turned out to be, much more vast than I had expected. So, we had decided that
You're struggling,
I
aren't
have
you?
the hiccups.
At least
This
your
is
hiccups.
not the first time the stream has experienced.
At least your hiccups are cute. My hiccups sound like a toad burping. They're awful. So you've got little like.
okay, so we anticipated doing reliquaries
What's happening when I was
tonight, and relics just turned out to be endlessly fascinating to us. So we are going to do relics tonight, and there will be reliquaries and ossuaries and all the other. There are 1,000 different types of containers for bones, some of which are relics, some of which are designed to be worn, some of which are designed to exist.
Sam's ears.
Some ossuaries are actual buildings. So we have too much information. So tonight we're going to focus on the traditional relics that we know of in the Western tradition and the Eastern Orthodox tradition of Christianity. There are other religions where relics are a thing, and we will touch on those as well, just not tonight. We decided to focus a little bit so we don't have an accidental 3-hour podcast, because that is absolutely where we were going.
We gotta narrow it down. Yeah.
Begin by defining a relic as the physical remains of a holy site or a holy person.
Interject with
Yes, we did say remains. We mean the actual physical parts of said people or places.
Yep.
So the cult of relics dates back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries, when martyrs were often persecuted and killed in ways that fragmented the body. And the fragmenting of the body was actually a big thing because, Jay, you're a little ahead of us.
You're ahead of us.
You're further on in the script than we are, and that's...
In Roman society, actually, desecration of the body, even in an execution, was frowned upon. So martyrs were killed in often an extra cruel way. Or at least
extra cool.
Slay.
So at least that's the story we have.
Word.
I mean, history as written by one side was like, they did this. So, I mean, the Romans, I'm not going to be upset if we're, contradicting Roman history, because we're talking about colonizers versus colonizers, so we'll be okay. But so anyway, we had martyr pieces readily available because a lot of these martyrs at that point were fragmented. So by the 3rd and 4th centuries, the fragments of martyrs had come to be revered as loci of power and special access to the divine. Not Loki, loci. That or loci.
Different.
Yeah.
Different.
Tragic, really,
Yes.
but different.
So
I'm right there with you, Jake.
let's talk about the first martyr, who is Saint Polycarp, which it was observed.
Wait, we got to finish this last part of that first because it's important. That's okay. Okay. So, the Second Council of Nicaea in 87 or CE. We are actively working on the CE thing, but it's not something that we do in everyday life. And for this particular podcast, we decided not to stress over it because of the subject matter. So anyway, in Nicaea, the Second Council of Nicaea, they passed the papal corpse trials. They determined that relics were necessary for the consecration of altars. So if you had an altar in your church and you did not have a relic, it was not an altar. It was not a real church.
Oh, dang.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Rough.
So the quote here is, where the bones of martyrs are buried, devils flee
787.
as from fire and unbearable torture. So that's why I wanted to go back and finish that part, because that is where relics got supercharged.
Yes.
So the first martyr,
Saint Polycarp.
Many fish.
Many fish.
Mr. Many Fish.
Not a Pokemon, but sounds
really
like
sounds like a Pokemon.
So Polycarp was burned at the stake, but his divine form apparently would not burn. So Sam, what happened?
Am I allowed to read from the script, or am I just guessing? Because if I'm just guessing, I'm guessing that his body burned and there was a magical ghost that scattered into a bunch of different fish, like a Patronus from Harry Potter, and like a blue-white ghost form.
So now read from the script.
Okay. Okay, where
I mean, solid stab at
right. So they couldn't
solid
burn
stab.
right. So they couldn't burn him, which was a massive L for both the Romans and everyone watching the Romans, because that was sort of like a sport back then, was watching people die, which is like, people were cool back then, right?
Unlike now.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of snowflakes who don't like watching public executions. Oh, you poor dear. But
I somehow aspirated my drink into my sinuses, and wow.
So they're lemon drop martinis, by the way.
But all that to say, then they were like, well, if he won't burn, let's just stab him to death. And so then they just stabbed him a bunch, which, that was fun. And then
what did they do after that?
And then when that didn't work, they were like, well, the first thing didn't work and the second thing didn't work, so let's just do the first thing a second time, and maybe it'll work now that he's been stabbed a bunch. So they tried that, and then apparently he died. Which was,
Yes. So he was burned a second time.
The Romans took the W.
The second time worked. Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then his
ashes and bones get picked up, and all of his followers are like, oh, this is gonna go crazy in like 200 years for someone. I bet.
They were deemed more precious than gold and jewels.
I can't put my necklace.
So the Catholic Church recognized 3 different classes of relics. The first class,
so your dead stuff has a social strata.
Yeah.
Yes. So first class, items that are directly associated with the events of Christ's life or are the physical remains of a saint. Second class,
items owned or used by a saint.
And third class, and this is where all of the relic counterfeiters, hucksters, etc., like, this is their in, because Heather, what is the third class of relics?
objects that had come in contact with second class relics.
So that means, basically, if one had a handkerchief that was used by a saint to blow their nose,
right,
because they were
Especially
suffering
to blow their nose
from allergies, and
or
then
a bad breakup or something.
and then one took a random rock, a rattling rock,
a rattling rock,
and touched it to said handkerchief that had said Saint Snot on it.
Don't worry, everything is fine.
That's what we always say.
That would then become a third class relic.
Now, I don't feel like this needs to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yes.
That's
You have We haven't even gotten
there
to
yet.
the foreskin
Okay,
yet.
You'll get
Like,
there. All right, I'll
I mean, the
haven't-
chat has gotten there.
we haven't even
now
gotten
one
there
of us
yet.
has gotten there.
So
not there
basically,
yet.
the third becomes a pyramid scheme of relics because you can just endlessly make
Yes,
more relics.
and I have to reference Delaney's notations because she was like multi-level MARK, like the Saint marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing, yes.
Yes.
Delaney has a constant offer
Oh my
in
gosh,
perpetuity
She's gonna fit in here so
to
well.
I know.
So good.
So
Okay, so at this third tier, we're basically giving everybody license to sell
Bill?
faux legitimate
Just
relics.
come up with stuff, honestly.
What? Are you talking about me or them?
No, them.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not talking about you. You did your
I
research.
mean,
that happens
I also do come up with things.
That is fair, but I don't
Oh,
think
that's
you did
why.
this.
But yeah, no, this is just like, this is the tertiary relics, and so this is like the 6 degrees of separation of relics. Like, my relic touched your relic, which
Touched
touched
your
in
relic.
your, yeah,
Touched your relic.
which
Exactly.
once worked with Kevin Bacon on Footloose.
exactly.
Yes.
And so this was a market. And again, we're going back to what Heather said, which is in the Middle Ages, relics actually became more important than the sacraments. Series of relics.
Oh, that's some heresy right there.
Oh, yes, we love you, Keiko. Oh my God. But from the time of Charlemagne, it became obligatory that every altar contain a relic. And
That was the Council of Nicaea previously mentioned.
yes. So, for Delaney's notations, that doesn't sound very feasible. So,
Yeah.
Heather, how is the word relic or the concept of relic used in the Bible?
So the word relic is never actually used in the Bible.
Because of course it isn't. Because
No,
that's
of course it
insane.
It is
Yeah.
utterly insane. There are so many hoops that the church jumped through to make sure that they were justifying that these were not idols.
Yes. And
Which
oh
is,
God,
Oh my god.
the Catholic Church, like, they played freaking Twister.
Yes.
Like,
No,
like,
no, it's not. It's different. It's not
It's
like
different.
that.
It's
different.
not the
Yeah.
same.
It's special, but it's not that special. It's just
So,
sort of special. Shut up.
However, the Bible does actually contain instances where restorative properties relating to contact with holy individuals.
Yeah.
yeah.
occur.
And here we
So-
go with Elisha.
So Elisha, for example, died, and they buried Elisha. And then this is from King. Is this first or
Kings 2,
Second Kings?
2 Kings. No,
2
that's
Corinthians.
the outro. King 2nd, 13, 20 to 21.
So Elisha died. They buried him. And bands of Moabites used to invade the land in the spring of the year. And as a man was being buried, just a random guy, not
Thank you for the
That's
recipe.
true. That's true, by the way.
Really?
Like, according to the Catholic Church, that's not a bit that they're doing.
For real?
Yeah. You can also, if you're in an emergency situation and you can't get a priest on the scene to bless water, you too can bless water and turn it into holy water.
Okay, so
but if
what
someone-
we're referencing is in the chat, which you cannot see,
Yes.
which says, to be fair, you can also make infinite holy water by adding 49% normal unholy water and then continuing
But
to do that.
can you bless holy water if you haven't like ever taken communion?
I'm pretty sure that it just says,
This interests me because this shows up in a lot of science fiction books.
from what I remember, the like ordinance is just that like a non-priest can do it if there's an emergency, and then the examples are like if someone's dying and you need to bless them before they die, or if someone's, I don't know, getting married in like the Sahara for some reason and there's no priests, they can get around it for some reason. But someone,
Usually a different kind of priest in the Sahara, but
yeah,
carry
whatever.
on.
But I'm like, but someone argued that if it's up to the person to decide what counts as an emergency, then everything gets a little dicey, and technically you can make a little bit of water, bless it, add 49%, add 49%, add 49%, and then just end up with a gallon of holy water.
Interesting.
But then again, I don't know, like, theologically that seems dicey to me, but I'm sure that someone has come up with a way to justify it, and I'm sure someone
I
has
mean,
blessed their Sprite before.
It
Holy Sprite.
oh, Sprite.
To be fair, holy water is not a biblical thing.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
I mean, it kind of seems like if there's a situation of duress, that as long as you are of pure intention,
Yeah.
you should be able to consecrate whatever liquid is necessary to move the person on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to consecrate your water, because
Neither am I.
but I'm going to go back to Elisha.
yes.
Good enough.
So-
Good. Yes, yes.
Yes. Go
So
back to
the
Elisha.
verses are Elisha died and they buried him. Hello, sunshine. Now bands of Moabites used to invade the land in the spring of the year. And as a man was being buried, lo, a marauding band was seen, and the man was cast into the grave of Elisha.
They took the dude who was being buried and chunked him into another person's grave.
And as soon as the man touched the bones of Elisha,
Lucky
he revived and stood on his feet.
Yes. What portions of his feet were on Elisha, and what positions? Like, did Elisha just get a magnificent, like, ball
Footprint
crack
on his face.
face? I was thinking ball cracking, but
Yeah, like he just like, my foot touched Elisha's balls. I'm holy now, and everyone's just like,
okay,
hallelujah.
but he was dead. He was
Yeah.
dead when he was chunked
Yeah,
into the
I guess
grave.
he didn't. I guess he wasn't really conscious of what.
No.
We're all
bits
going to
of
be
him
struck by
touched
lightning.
Yeah.
I'm trying to back up, but there's only so much room here.
I'm sorry. I'm over here with Sam, and I'm a heretic. Sam is a skeptic.
I
how it
am
would-
what I would describe myself as a heretic for fun,
Uh,
but like generally not.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So-
I'll do anything for the bit, is what I'm
I
saying.
feel like Sam believes.
Goodness, Jason.
I feel like Sam believes in the underlying truth of it all, but the dogma and the ludicrousy is
Ludicrousness?
Ludicrosity.
is ripe for,
That's fair, Jay. I feel like you should get some
Poking
free
fun.
punches.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to characterize your spirituality.
Yeah, no, I think
But-
I'm a heretic for the bit and a believer for the not bit. I don't know. Let's go.
Life?
Life?
For the why.
But
This was not supposed to be any kind of evaluation of Sam's beliefs or anyone's
no,
beliefs.
and I'm really trying not to.
You all
But-
just sit me down and you're like, I know we told you were going to be here talking about relics, but we actually have a secret script and we're actually going to interrogate you about your faith.
I gave you this script.
Elisha
I
was a
gave you the
disciple of
script.
Elijah, in case anyone
Like,
was
come on.
wondering.
If anyone was curious. Oh.
And in the Eastern Orthodox
Also,
tradition,
my
I learned something new today because I didn't realize that the Eastern Orthodox tradition had different
Oh.
And so Elisha
Okay.
was canonized after his death. And Allison told me this morning why she remembers the word canonization. Why was that, Allison?
Go ahead.
Because when I was learning about all of it, I was like, did they actually shoot them out of a cannon?
And the answer is no. No one was shot out of any cannon.
Shot out of a cannon because cannons didn't even exist.
But I didn't realize that Elisha and Elijah had been canonized, and I was like, but they were Jewish. Like they're prophets, but they're
Come on.
definitely Jewish when they died. And so that is Eastern Orthodox tradition. And
So let's wander away really quickly to a sidebar about Chartres.
Pardon?
Chartres.
So talking of first class relics, this is where we decided my personal story with my very own relic comes in.
Like, I could
So
talk to
when
French
I
people and they'd
was
be
in
like,
high school, I went on a
"Please
trip to
don't
France.
speak French, please. I'm
Sorry.
listening. We're
Uh-huh.
listening.
Well, so are podcast listeners. So I just wanted them to.
Everyone's listening.
So I was privileged enough to go to France on a trip, and one of the stops that we made was to Chartres. And Chartres is It's a really fascinating cathedral. It's probably the world's finest extant example of the French Gothic period architecture, and it's ridiculously pretty. And it's also weird because it burned and got reconstructed, and all of that is part of this. So the relic at Chartres, because it did exist while relics still had to be part of the thing. Their relic is the Sancta Camisa, which is the tunic worn by Mary either at Christ's birth and or at the Annunciation by Gabriel, which is when Mary was told that she was having, oh goodness.
You're fine. I'm just
having
looking at you.
said holy baby. So it was a gift to the church by Charles the Bald, who was Charlemagne's grandson. The tradition is that Charlemagne picked this up in the Middle Ages before the Middle Ages, on his crusade to Jerusalem, but there's not really all that much basis.
Yeah.
In fact, for the trip to Jerusalem, so that's a big fat question mark, citations needed. But it's just a plain white silk piece of cloth.
Right.
And so it's been at the church for quite some time. Charlemagne, the traditional story is Charlemagne received it as a gift from Emperor Constantine IV on that crusade.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
So, but since that was probably not the case, since there is no... Exactly. See, that's another question. Would Mary have had silk? Probably not. However, according to, and again, citation needed, I found something that did say that they had the veil, or extant pieces of the veil, tested in... What on earth are we doing? In the 20th century, and they found traces of pollen from 1st century Palestine on it. So that's interesting if that is true. So in 1194, and this is obviously a very, very long time ago, the cathedral was struck by lightning, and the east spire of the cathedral was lost in the ensuing fire.
No.
Like it was too much. It was like the Notre Dame fire, for those of us who remember that. And oh my god, Keiko, we do need notes for our podcast.
Yes.
So the nativity cloak was also thought lost, but 3 days later, they found some priests who had gone behind iron doors to guard the cloak. So here we have 3 days later, coming from catacombs, something that was thought lost is now back in our possession.
I've heard that one.
How do you know?
I know that one.
So at the time, the people at the church told everyone, this is the sign from Mary that she wants a better church. So,
Bro,
yeah.
bro,
Well,
so imagine.
I mean,
Like,
word out Mary.
I'm feeling like maybe that's not a direct quote.
Okay, okay. Let's. You know what? Friggin',
So
she got friggin' pregnant at 14,
Right.
or whatever, and she gave birth in a literal pig shit
Pigsty.
pigsty, and I don't think that she'd be like, no, the vibes are all wrong. No, it's
I
not
know.
enough gold for me. Like I think she'd be fine.
I feel
But,
like that too.
Whatever, bro. Go
But
ahead.
of course,
Go
at
on.
this point, the church is missing. I mean, it had 2 spires, and it's now like this. So
Yeah.
they did rebuild it.
It's not enough spiders, man.
No, that is.
I mean,
it had spires.
It had 2
So
pieces, and
now
it only has
you get
one.
to, after that, you get to the Chartres Cathedral that I saw, which has 2 spires of completely different types. They didn't even try to rebuild the same way. It's
they're-
hilarious
they're
and awesome. I mean, you really should look it up because there's nothing like it. So also,
Fair.
I did not realize this so it used to be all one big piece of silk. And during the French Revolution, many relics were seized and destroyed, including the Sancta Camisa.
No.
It was cut into several pieces.
no, it gets better.
It was cut into several pieces, and some of the pieces, 2 of the pieces specifically, were returned to Chartres. others were given to other places after the days of Robespierre. So
Yes,
so
we're
yeah.
coming to that.
So now they do have the veil on display, and it's normally not viewable to the public. They have it in a little tiny chapel that is protected. It's in the crypt. It's underground, so it's temperature controlled. And normally, if you want to pray to it, you would submit prayers and have them prayed by an intercessor.
But don't get us wrong, it's not an idol. It's different.
It is different.
It's so different.
So
when
different.
I personally went to see Chartres, it happened to be Easter Monday, so it was a high holy day. So the veil was out, and I got to see it. And it's in a completely different reliquary now, because they did not have the same piece they used to have. They have just a little bits, but they can now house it in 2 different places in the church, and had to build a new reliquary for it. So anyway, I got to see it, and that was pretty cool, regardless of what the truth behind it is.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so the holiest of relics are those associated with Christ and the Virgin Mary, like the veil at Chartres.
When y'all talk about it, all I hear is
yeah, well, welcome to French. However, physical relics of Christ and the Virgin are typically things they have touched, like the veil, pieces of the true cross, etc. But there are a few rare exceptions, such as Jesus' baby teeth,
slay.
Mary's milk, and Jesus' foreskin.
Yeah, no, okay, I said this earlier to them, and I'm going to say it now to you, the viewers, because I would like your input on this. I think, listen, if somehow someone managed to get a hold of, a lock of Jesus' hair, I get it. You're in a hair salon, you see the Messiah, and you're like, oh, I know him from the news or whatever, and you grab some of it off the floor, and you're like, oh, slay, I have this, I'm gonna pass it down for generations. Sure, whatever.
Oh, Hildegard J.
But the thing is, when he was born, he was just a kid who, according to everyone who didn't know what was going on, which was most people, he was just some random kid who got born outside of wedlock and was now being raised by a teen mom. I don't think anyone would be like, oh, that's the foreskin, I'm gonna save that for later and pass it down to my grandkids. No. You'd throw that in the trash, and then everyone would be like, okay, great. Or in a biohazard bin.
They didn't have biohazard.
You're a biohazard bin. There was a bucket or
this
whatever.
is this opportunity to look up the tradition of a bris.
But there was a bin, and it was made out of rocks or whatever they had in Bible times, and they'd throw it in the rock bin.
They did have
and then
rocks.
They'd throw the rock bin over a cliff, and then they'd be like, "Okay, that's done." No, I get it. After he was famous, I wanted a lock of Taylor Swift's hair. I would take one of Taylor Swift's fingernails if someone told us me. But I'm just like
her actual fingernails or her press-on nails?
I'm not gonna answer that question. I'm mostly kidding. I really don't care about.
Yes, midden is the term.
But point being, I really don't think that one makes sense. The other ones, sure, whatever, but that one, I'm like,
okay. So
also, just as an aside, sorry, not a true sidebar, but the reason
that's coming up.
Reason we are not supposed to have actual pieces of Christ's body or Mary's body is because of the Annunciation. Yes, because they ascended with their entire body into heaven.
That's why I said the hair thing, because they wouldn't have one of his fingers, but they might have a lock of his hair.
Exactly, and that's where the baby teeth.
The baby teeth and the foreskins.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Heather, can I request from you a refill whilst I explore this particular sidebar? So, there is a material that is called wax mask, and this material is a canonically approved wax, which is supposed to
That's all there is.
that's good supposed to attach the top of the holy table to the legs of the holy table. It's supposed to be attached with wax mastic and nails. So, Sam,
okay,
what do you think are the ingredients of wax mastic? I'm gonna just help you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 ingredients.
I'm gonna try to think of the way that most animal glues were made, because that would have been how things were.
Okay, but this is a mystical animal glue.
Alright, man.
Just
tree sap?
What type of tree sap?
birch?
It's called wax mastic.
Wax tree? Mastic tree.
Okay, so yes, resin from the mastic tree, which is native to the Mediterranean basin.
Okay. Are there any animal products involved?
One,
Is it beeswax?
it is.
Okay. Aloe?
Yes.
Okay. Sand of any kind?
Not technically sand, but okay, so think
the phrase
about
not technically sand is crazy.
because when you grind any sort of rock into powder, it's technically sand.
Magic rock powder. Crystal ball powder.
Okay, ground marble, got it.
There we go.
Okay, think of the story of the
Hair? Is there any hair?
No, the story of the Magi. What did they bring?
Oh, gold, frankincense, myrrh.
Okay, so we have gum olibanum, which is frankincense, and we have myrrh gum.
Also, here's a fun fact for those of you who did not grow up Christian and did not learn this later in life and get their face smacked off. Did you know that it never says that there were 3 magi?
I did not.
It never says that. It just says that there were some of them. There could have been 5. There could have been freaking 20.
Wow,
And
that's cool.
we just assumed it was 3 because there were 3 gifts listed.
So some of them just came without
Prepared.
gifts.
Yeah, and some of them
Some
were
came with gifts, and some were
One
like.
of them brought like Cece's pizza, and they were like, "No, that's not gonna fly. This is literally like God over here." And he's like, "Oh, my bad," and he threw the pizza out, and the camels ate it.
Okay, so here's another thing: is this is something that is prevalent in the literature, and I really want to find out why. But there's a plant, and it grows, and it has stabby ass thorns and beautiful flowers that smell really good.
Roses?
Yes.
Why is there roses?
There are 2 types: rose incense and rose oil.
Interesting. Okay.
And also
maybe they just wanted the table to smell good.
But there used to be a whole thing of like taking rose petals and like putting them with other stuff and gumming them down and making them to bead and making rosaries of roses. So I am interested to explore the role of roses in the canon. Okay, and so there is one more thing in this recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that
gum benzo Sumatra. So it's another tree gum.
It's another tree gum from a completely different region. So the mastic is from the Mediterranean basin, and the benzo Sumatra is from the Southeast Asian region. Also, just read that.
Note, the article I read about wow, I am not in it today. The article I read about making wax mastic successed grinding all of the ingredients, parentheses, including the marble, with an electric coffee grinder. You know, I get the feeling that's not how they did it.
No, and also I feel like that would be really, really bad for your coffee grinder.
I think it would, okay, here's what I'm imagining. So there's this dude, I'm gonna name him Jason. Jason lived in Bible times. Jason is like, I gotta make this table, bro. This table's for a bunch of really cool people, apparently. I gotta make this table really good. So he proceeds to spend day and night not collecting these ingredients from various retailers who sold them. He proceeds to create a little jar, and he puts like a blade in the bottom, like a little knife. And then he proceeds to stand on his roof holding an electric rod and holding his little cup. And he waits, and God hits him with lightning, and it spins the blade around real fast. And then he makes it, and then he's like, wow, I'm gonna call this
wax mastic.
Nobody, please,
because it was fantastic.
And nobody take this as advice. Like, we love Sam, but Sam is not a legally certified authority on how to
just
grind
like warning.
marble.
Sam doesn't know what's happening right now. We're so sorry.
Just don't, Beating Dreams takes no responsibility.
Don't sue us. Please.
They won't. Okay, but look, there's a random fact.
Random fact. Are you prepared? In AD 326, Saint Helena, mother of the first Christian emperor Constantine, miraculously discovered the resting place of the true cross.
Woo! Look! True cross!
And she just held it. Okay.
True cross.
And she just held it like that? Like,
Probably.
I'm pretty sure.
It's an accurate reenactment.
Yes.
it'd be like, I'm trying to get this on camera. It'd
Come
be like
on.
this thick.
Come on.
Or maybe.
I'm reenacting.
Okay. Several years after, pieces of the true cross had spread throughout Europe. No doubt, I assume.
Yes.
Bringing support and influence in by the splinter. So basically, this chick shows up and she's like, hey, y'all will never believe what I found. And then everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's so what a coincidence. I also found the same thing.
So
Slay.
yeah, so let's transition to talking about the most abundant relics are associated with apostles and local saints. And there was, first of all, like we've got a twofer for y'all. So first of all, there was a whole relic stealing thing.
That's the Ocean's 8 movie I want to see.
Yeah,
Yes.
that went on as well. Relics that were originally housed at one
Ocean's
church,
1180.
and then oh goodness! But Sam, I had a relic at my church, and it's gone. Where do you think it is?
Well, it's probably at my church now, because my church is cooler than yours, but your altar isn't legit anymore, so... Oh, wait a second. Let me find something out of my bag. 1 second.
So
it's a finger bone.
what? So what did your minions actually commit there?
Well, I would assume crime.
Oh yes.
But what's that particular crime called?
I almost said Furby. Furta Sacra, aka sacred theft, which is like theft.
It is
which
like
is
theft.
like theft, but if theft was cool.
No,
If
you
theft
stole
was-
my
if that-
church's thing.
Oh, it was cool
You
for me.
stole my church's finger bone.
Well, guess what? My church is cooler now, and your church is less cool
Okay,
now.
but if you were Archbishop Hugh, what would you have done?
Okay, so if I'm Archbishop Hugh, for the sake of this example, as if this is not something that actually did happen in real life,
It did.
What do you think? What relic do you think you would have in your church that I could steal?
Okay, so Stream, if I had the arm of Mary Magdalene,
Her whole arm.
her whole mostly arm, how do you think if you wanted to
Don't
elevate?
eat the relics, no matter how tempting they are.
No, but that's not where I'm going with this, though.
It is though.
If my church had an entire mostly arm of Mary Magdalene and you really wanted it, or a portion of it, what would you do? You would go to visit it in France, and then...
In the 12th century, it's security, not so much thing back then.
No, but they'd check your pockets, but you know what they wouldn't check? Your teeth.
Yeah.
Or your,
Between your teeth.
or your colon.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that he ate it and then shat it out and then they took
Okay,
it?
there's no word on that.
There is actually no writing on that, but
Oh my god. I thought you were just implying that he held it in his mouth until he made it up.
no, I'm pretty sure.
crazy.
So
See, that's
anyway,
what I'm picturing, Sam.
so what
Did
happened?
he shove it up his ass?
So what did
it wasn't a
Hugh?
dime bag.
What did Hugh do?
Hugh took 2 freaking bites. 2. That's what's crazy to me. Because one,
He
I'm
didn't
like,
stop at
I
one.
know,
He's
like,
like, I need a bite.
you're that desperate to make your altar work or whatever they were talking about back then. I'm like, you know what? Friggin', that's where your income comes from. Nom nom, right? But the thing that gets me is the second nom nom, right? Is the fact that he went in for seconds and he was like, oh, that's good. Oh, like he went in again and he was like, no, I need 2 of these. Maybe he was like, I need to give one to a friend. I promised him a souvenir.
Okay, and the other part for me is that this man was later canonized himself, which makes me wonder if it was, well, he was sanctified because he, had it in him. Or if he just did enough good to make up for the crime.
residue?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
all that
also, occasionally, there would be 2 establishments or more with purportedly the same relic.
yeah.
And no, this is
Yeah,
not in the script. It's in my script. So
We're gonna get more of that later.
so
but
they'd have the same relic.
Well, hold on.
But wait,
before we move on from this topic, I'm Hugh, and you're like the palace guard or whatever, and I need you to be like, did you steal anything? Okay?
Okay.
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Okay.
It was great. It was
Cute. Hey, hold on. Let me see your mouth. Open. Open. Don't make me do the cat thing with you. Yeah. No. Now I'm gonna like. That looks like a portion of a saint.
That looks like an arm. Did you eat? No, and he's just like, oh no. I swear to God. Anyway, sorry.
I have seen my cats puke up portions of birds, and so
is this the guard talking?
yes,
My cat is. I watched him eat a bird once. It was like this, like a lot. Oh, so good. Also, what is the TikTok audio with the speeding ticket? Because I'm not on TikTok, and I don't think either of these people are either.
Okay. Well, I am.
You are?
Well, I just.
No, I mean, Allison is technically on TikTok.
I'm technically, yes. I will follow links to TikTok, but I don't check it every day.
Fair enough. Okay.
But anyway, so where were we at?
Multiple versions of the same relic, which is physically impossible, but yet happened.
And
So the authentic relic would be established by which relic performed the best
right.
miracles, which I like to refer to as a death match.
Yes. So
Or rather, a bring back to life match?
Depends on the miracles.
A resurrection match?
Miracle Max, miracles. You
have
rush a
to-
miracle, you got a shoddy miracle.
he did it first. But anyway, so yeah. So that was actually a thing. Like there literally was, if there was a dispute about which relic was authentic
Wake me up.
and which was not, like they would literally be applied to a dying person and to see if either of them saved.
That's, okay, realistically that's sad, but having been a couple hundred years since then, that's so funny. Imagining you're sitting there, like, just, like, dying of, whatever, polio, before you knew it was polio, and you just thought it was, like, a ghost or something, and then having someone be like, so I have this splintery block of wood that I think is from the cross, and he's got his splintery block of wood, which I think is from a house, and we're just gonna rub it on you, while you're dying, and we just hope you're gonna be good, and then they just start, like, and you just gotta be like, oh, okay, alright, sure, whatever you say, oh, that hurts, actually, and they're like, no, shut up, this will work, we swear. Like, oh.
Okay, so in the 4th century AD, Eastern Orthodox churches began digging up saints and dividing them
Yeah, no.
and redistributing them amongst churches in the eastern region because when Constantinople became a center of political and religious power, there were not a ready supply of deceased and buried saints in Constantinople as there were in Rome. So basically, the Eastern Orthodox were grabbing the ones from Rome, and by dividing, I'm interpreting that as dismembering and then distributing to their churches.
It's crazy what people will do for the sake of,
and
like,
also like Istanbul,
Constantinople, if you've got date in Constantinople,
waiting in Istanbul.
Yeah. No, but I'm just imagining they're like, okay, so you know, like, okay, hey, bud, freaking John.
Yeah.
Hey, John. It's me, Mark. I know that we have that whole thing about how burial is holy, and if you bury someone and you do it right, that's how they get to heaven. And you know, we have all these saint guys, right, that are like super important and holy and special and above everybody else. What if we sort of like undid the whole burial thing so that we could be special?
Well, I really have like 2 months of payments due on my condo, so
yeah,
I think that sounds good.
I got dogs to feed, man.
Yeah, so let's do it.
Let's just do a heresy real quick and just, you know, get them out there like cash. Like,
yeah. So at this time, there was a thriving, like all caps with glitter.
Yes, with glitter.
Industry in selling counterfeit relics. Many, if not all, were fake. So,
of course, I feel like that doesn't even need to be said.
yeah, so let's pivot to the Protestant Revolution, Heather.
So Martin Luther had thoughts
Yes.
on relics.
Because he's
He
the
did.
only one in this freaking situation who had any common sense.
Right.
Martin Luther was like, why are these not idols, by the way?
Just let us know.
I
if
mean,
you have
I
time.
know that you say they aren't. However, also, how real could these be? This is a reported quote. If all the relics were cataloged, it would be made manifest that every apostle has more than 4 bodies and every saint 2 or 3. And also, how does it happen that 18 apostles are buried in Germany when Christ had only 12?
And none of them were German.
Right, exactly. Also
or
that.
knew what Germany was.
So let's continue on to Saint Rosalia. So, what did Rosalia do at the end of her life, Heather?
She isolated herself on Mount Pellegrino for the last 12 years
Did she
of her
have
life.
sparkling water?
And
Yeah,
now wine, according to the ads on Spotify. So, praying.
Jesus can do miracles. What can you say?
I know, and water into wine. It's all fitting for this particular podcast, Pellegrino. We expect to hear from you soon.
And wine.
Yes. So praying and serving God is what she was doing. And this was in AD 1200-ish.
Uh-huh.
In 1624, a little bit later,
Yeah, like 400 years
400
later.
years later, yeah, Cash.
a plague shook the region. Villagers began receiving visions from Saint
Oh
Rosalia,
my god.
or fever, or
It's
Saint
me,
Rosalia.
She's leading me.
She's
And
twerking.
she was guiding villagers to the cave
I don't
where
even
she
know what
had
that is
died.
yet.
Ah,
And upon discovery of her bones in this cave where the villagers were led by their visions or fever, whichever was the accurate
Or-
description, or
misdirection.
yes, or the plague magically ended.
Woo!
And the bones were enshrined and venerated for centuries.
And that.
And in 1825, a British geologist examined the bones and determined that they belonged
Hold
to...
on. No. I want guesses.
Who were the bones actually?
What species of mammal?
It was a mammal.
To what species of mammal did the bones actually belong? I would like guesses from the stream. Sam already knows, Heather already knows. But just good vibes. Give me a guess.
Oh man, I was gonna guess dinosaur. You said mammal. Bear.
Not a bear.
Not a bear.
We don't know if Saint Rosalia was a bear though.
If good vibes is on, I
Thank
feel
you.
like good vibes has an advantage. That is a hint.
Ah, Keiko.
Keiko got it.
Yep.
Keiko got it correct.
Keiko got it correct.
It's,
So yes.
the
is in
bones
fact
of a goat, and the bones of a
goat.
goat cured illness or
Yeah.
visions or what plague.
So yes, the
What have
bones
you.
that were enshrined and venerated for centuries belonged to a goat, and we are
What?
not
Hold
talking
on.
about greatest of all
Okay.
time. We are talking about the horn, like kind, yeah.
Saint goat.
So, because of all of the trafficking in counterfeit relics in 1555, Heather, what happened?
The Catholic Church,
Let's see. Sorry.
under pressure from the Calvinist reformers, like Martin Luther, like, why do you have 18 apostles buried in Germany? Martin Luther forbade the sale of relics altogether.
But then, does anybody live in Michigan?
Raise your hand if you live in Michigan.
Because
Oh, Corvus is here.
yay! Hi, Corvus. So yeah. So then,
Exactly, A.A. Ron.
and this
McClellan.
is in the fall of the year 1890. So
Relics were all the rage.
after they'd been banned, because in 1555 the Catholic Church banned them, and then in the fall of 1890, two gentlemen,
We're going throwback.
yes, named Scottfield and Soper, discovered a trove of relics in 16 counties of Michigan, United States of America.
where Jesus was like all the time. That was his vacation spot.
Really?
He wanted to see the Statue of Liberty.
Like
Yes, because back then the Statue of Liberty was
Statue of
definitely in
Liberty
Yeah.
in Michigan.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So I mean, there was the flood where
Yeah, and then you
whole
could only see your little torch
was
sticking out.
covered, but like Michigan,
Yeah.
like the UP, where it snows so much that you have to have two doors.
Doesn't it seem excessive? I think I think
mean-
the Michigan part is where it began to be excessive.
It's
Keiko.
Michigan on a mission.
Yes.
On a mission to commit heresy.
Okay, but I believe you're just using alliteration to make a point.
Alliteration. I don't have to say.
Fair,
Sorry.
fair
So there were these two dudes named Schofield and Soper, and they discovered a variety of biblical relics in Michigan.
Okay, Columbus.
So that's the fall of 1890 AD. So that's, again, 300 years in the future. And the relics apparently span 16 counties of Michigan, including, Heather, what did the purported relics include?
Oh, you're never gonna get. So, Stream, I would ask you to guess, but there is no chance. There's not a snowball's chance in a flood that you would guess Noah's Diary is one of the relics that they said they
Because
found
apparently
in Michigan.
He's like laying on his bed and kicking his feet. Like,
Dear Diary, today the Lord destroyed humanity. Massive L. Love, Noah. Dear Diary, day 36 of shoveling elephant shit. Love, Noah. Like, not. Like, do we think it was? Do we think?
Dear
it was
Diary, I'm now the fastest
And-
man in the world.
Floofy?
Officially, love Noah. Yeah, but I think it was pink and fuzzy, and but since there wasn't faux fur, he was using the fur of an animal that no longer exists. That was
Right?
pink and fuzzy.
Seriously,
pink and
because we
fuzzy.
don't have unicorns anymore.
Not yet.
And I think we're gonna blame Noah
We think we're gonna blame Noah for
for
taking
that.
the
So yeah, so
Jay, it does seem that way, right?
I do need to let y'all know that I
Okay.
because my ride is here.
okay.
But
So
I would like to say goodbye to everyone on the stream.
yes,
And thank you so much for watching and listening and whatever
Love you.
in whatever form you're taking, and for laughing at my jokes in the chat. I
Of
appreciate
course.
people thinking that I'm funny. And I will see you two tomorrow, Heather and Allison.
Yes.
And
yes, but you're cool.
yeah, I'm fine. My mom is big.
Okay. All right. We love Sam. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
And we're actually absolutely on the tail end of this. So
Bye.
bye.
Oh, I need to let Sam out, actually.
Okay, so I will this podcast because we really were like so.
Well, you'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, so no, that's not gonna work. But here we go with so Noah's Diary, part of the Michigan relics, debunked, and yet they still pursued this and discovered new relics and sold them for the next 30 years. But so just a little buyer beware info. According to the Smithsonian, at any given day, there are approximately $10 million worth of antiquities for sale online. The Smithsonian, which is a fairly reliable source, estimates that up to 80% of these are fake or stolen. So I feel like the takeaway from this is buyer beware. If it's too good to be true, it often is. And again, if it seems like a pie in the sky story, there's a really good chance that it's a fabrication. Heather, what's your takeaway from this broadcast?
Well, definitely. On a serious note, I fully understand that the idea of a physical thing to amplify your worship is not the worst idea. I feel like possibly we've gone overboard.
Well, not necessarily we currently, but people in general.
Yes.
at various times. So the takeaway generally is buyer beware, research, read, think about why this thing is important to you, and then think about, is this thing important to you because somebody else feels like it should be important to you? Because that's kind of the whole, in my opinion, Heather may have a different opinion, but like in the whole distillation of reliquaries, relics, etc., like it all seems to be based on the seller, the provider of the item, thinks it should be important to you, and they have gilded it and jeweled it, and we're gonna go into that with our actual reliquary podcast. But like, they've got this thing which theoretically has metaphysical powers. It could be from John the Baptist. It could be from Harold the Plague Victim. There is literally no way to tell. But there's this thing that they believe has value, and then they're going to take this thing and they're going to enshrine it in a beautifully executed vessel. And also, I will say that the dubious provenance of relics does not take away from the beauty and artistry of reliquaries, which again we will deal with in our next podcast. Like, even if you build a beautiful castle to hide a fake thing, the castle's still beautiful. But anyway, so like it's incredibly complicated, and right. Yeah, and then if you're gonna get metaphysical on it, like, whose bones do you actually have, and what does that mean for you? But anyway, this is were you gonna say something?
I was. There's one idea that didn't come into play in the rest of the podcast, and it lives rent-free in my head, and has since before we were working on this podcast, because, I learned about relics a long time ago. There is a belief that all the saints and everyone who is going to up into heaven will be taken up bodily into heaven, which means that if any of these parts are actual saints, what's going to happen is they are going to Voltron themselves from all of the tiny little places that they are scattered throughout the earth. They're just going to whoosh and go up in heaven. And I really kind of want to see that.
I'm all for you.
Yes.
So Heather and I are done for this evening. Thank you all for hanging out with us at the Button List and watching us at twitch.tv.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of The Button List with Allison
and Heather. You can catch The Button List weekly on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube.
You can also watch our complimentary live tutorials every Wednesday and Friday at 6 p.m. Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and twitch.tv/feeding dreams.